it's me, JOYNFINITY, and you're listening to Toys and Tech of the Trade.
What's going on, folks? Thanks for hitting that download button and checking out a brand new episode of Toys and Tech of the Trade, your one-stop shop for toys, tech, and talk with some assembly required. I'm your host, Rich, and if this is your first time checking out this show, first of all, welcome. Second, a bit about what we do here. Toys and Tech of the Trade is an interview series where we sit down with content creators, entrepreneurs, and awesome folks that are on our radar and discuss the gadgets, the gear, and the tech that they use to run their businesses, create their content, and overall, be more productive. When it comes to toys, we like to say toys in quotes around here and not relegated to action figures and any of the usual stuff. You'd be surprised what people consider their toys, and we like to embrace that definition in a more general sense around here. But with that intro out of the way, let's get into some housekeeping and turn it over to this week's guest. So, first and foremost, I know that we did not do an episode 2 weeks ago. Just a couple little personal things going on off air, which eventually I'll get into in a future episode that's more Q&A focused. But for now, had to take the 2 weeks and just work on some other stuff here at home. But we got a great slate of guests for the remainder of February and going into March. And I even want to say as far as April. So really excited to share all of these amazing stories and, more importantly, share some amazing gadgets, gear, and tech that you can use for your businesses, your creative endeavors. And with everything going on, this is prime time to really pull the trigger on those ideas that have been rattling around in your head. You want to start that YouTube channel? Go for it. You want to start streaming on Twitch? Make it happen. You want to start that business? You want to do that Etsy shop? There's no time like today to get that started. There's a lot of opportunities, a lot of tools, and a lot of great stuff out there. And hopefully some of the things we share can help you along your way. In some RageWorks Network news, I wanted to take the opportunity to welcome the latest addition to the RageWorks Podcast Network. That is the Eat for Life podcast. Really great podcast hosted by an amazing group of folks covering entrepreneurship, esports, really insightful, super informative. Basically, the concept was brought to my attention by Sebastian Burton, aka Chosen One. Those of you that have been familiar with the shows going back to the My Take Radio days will know Sebastian as somebody who I've known for a long time. We recently reconnected on LinkedIn and we're just talking about different ideas and different things. And podcasting came up in a conversation after he was a guest on Toys and Tech of the Trade. Make sure you check out that episode. And he reached out, expressed interest in starting a podcast to bring value with regards to entrepreneurship, esports, etc. And next thing you know, we went down the rabbit hole of talking, and that turned into him and a few of his colleagues coming together to launch the podcast. They are now on their 4th episode, and it's legitimately no BS, gems upon gems of just great information, whether you're looking to learn about esports or crypto. The crypto episode was outstanding, especially with everything going on nowadays with Bitcoin, Dogecoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, all of that stuff. It's just, there's so much stuff out there, so much misinformation. And the Crypto 101 episode with Marcus Howard was outstanding. By the time you hear this, episode 4 of their podcast will be out with Malik Forte as their guest. If you've been in the gaming space or you're familiar with Nerdist Industries or the esports space, then you've heard of Malik Forte. Malik really over-delivered as a guest on this past episode, and I'm not saying that just because I'm a fan of his work, but because the information that was there really open the floodgates and really shed some light on what it takes to be a personality in the gaming industry or in the entertainment industry for that matter. The episode was super insightful, and I myself learned a lot, and I've been doing this a long, long time. So definitely check out the Eat for Life podcast on the Rageworks Podcast Network. You can also find the Eat for Life podcast on all the major podcasting platforms. So definitely check them out. The other thing I did want to mention is that we are working on a brand new Q&A episode. So by all means, if you have any questions regarding the shows, the network, Rageworks itself, what I have going on, by all means, feel free to send your questions to rich@rageworks.net, or you can DM Rageworks via any social media platform of your choice. You can find us pretty much everywhere. On Twitter, though, we are Rage_Works. Someone has been sitting on the Rageworks Twitter forever. So if anybody has an inside track on Twitter that could help me get that name, that would be phenomenal. But without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to this week's guest. And her story is, man, it is textbook, a really, really amazing story that picked up a lot of steam with the current circumstances of the pandemic. And like I said, if you're not inspired by some of these stories, then you got to check your pulse and see if you're alive, because the story that this week's guest shared it's definitely one that many people are currently going through. So without any further ado, let's turn it over to this week's guests and learn about the toys and tech of their trade. My guest for this week's episode of Toys and Tech of the Trade is streamer, gamer, content creator, and podcaster Joy Nickens, better known as JOYNFINITY. I had the pleasure of connecting with Joy through a podcast meetup virtually, and we've been connected ever since. I've been following her growth as a streamer and as a podcaster, and today she is going to share the toys and tech of her trade. Hey, Joy, how's it going?
Hi, I'm doing wonderful, Rich. How are you doing?
I am so excited to finally get to sit down with you and share your story. Lurking, following your growth from afar, and it's amazing. You've taken just gaming and streaming and turned it into a full-on career in the midst of a pandemic, which is crazy. And on top of that, you launched a podcast. You're working on a complete branding initiative. So I kind of want to start with what we usually do on the show, which is the origin story. So I want to get into how you got started as a content creator, and more importantly, why gaming of all things.
Thank you so much. My heart and my brain are exploding right now because this is literally all I've ever been wanting to answer from anyone. No one asks me these questions. So I graduated from William Patterson University in 2013, and I transferred there from Brookdale Community College, and I didn't know what I was doing. Like, I really didn't have a career path. I knew from community college, all right, journalism works. And then when I got to William Patterson, it was like, well, I was doing something else. I was doing Japanese. I was learning Japanese. I just figured, hey, if you knew a bunch of languages, you could probably secure a job somewhere in the world. But when I got to William Patterson, it was like, no, you're not good at this. You need to do something else. So then, sob story, I changed my major, and I changed it the same day to communications. I didn't know what that entitled, like what that was going to be. But I started my major as communications broadcast journalism. So they trained me on how to be an anchor, how to be a person in front of the camera, how to be a host. I did do a video game show on campus as well for like a couple episodes. So all that to say, when I graduated, I had that knowledge, but I didn't know what to do with it. Obviously, the only thing I could do at that time, 2013, was just apply to a ton of companies, a lot of news networks, figuring out what am I supposed to do. And obviously, no one wanted to hire me. obviously I was so green, and I was upset. I was sad. And of course, when you have pressure, I'm a young millennial. I'm 23 at the time, and people, your parents, your your family's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Look, I don't know." So, uh, I was so sad that in October 25th, 2013, I started my YouTube channel, and it took forever for me to figure out a name. My first name is Joy. It's like, well, what else should you do with that? And I called my best friends, and I was like, well, what should I do? What should I do? And I just figured out, well, I love my name Joy, and I love the symbol infinity. So I was like, well, let's blend them together. Joy Infinity. But infinity with the I in between was taken. Someone took that name. So I figured if I dash the I away in between joy and, infinity, it's Joy N as in Nancy, but really Joy N as in my whole last name. So that was my thing.
Nice.
Joy Nickens is literally Joy Infinity. If you get rid of the Finity, it's my whole last name. So I'm like, oh, this makes sense. But there's so many people that misspell it. So that's the origin story of my name and how I just started to be on YouTube. And I was riding YouTube so hard. I was making videos. My first video was life as a video game, because video games has been a part of my life since 4. My father bought me my first console, which was a Sega Genesis. All I do as a Black woman was talking to my friends about video games and, looking at anime and all that other stuff. And I knew I wasn't a pro at video games, but I enjoyed role-playing games, the Final Fantasies and the Kingdom Hearts and the Xenosaga, or, just those deeply rooted games that barely anyone my complexion would talk about or my gender would talk about out loud. So once I was doing the YouTube thing, I was trying to do vlogging. I figured, well, what else can I do with YouTube? I'm not seeing anyone really respond to my gaming stuff, the stuff that I care about. They're really responding to all my reaction videos. People like seeing my face and being like, "Oh my God, she's so funny." So I went on a couple of conventions, video game conventions, and that's when they were saying, you should probably turn your love of video games, you should probably display that on Twitch. And I was like, well, can I do that? Like, who's going to want to see a Black girl talk about video games or play video games? And I was like, well, can I? And then I met a couple of my friends. Obviously, they were like, yeah, you should probably do it. And I was gathering the equipment, which it's overwhelming to want to start into this. But once you start gathering your items one by one, and obviously you don't have to have the most expensive technology out the gate. You just, collect things like a video game, like a journey. You collect your gear, and then eventually you just, the biggest thing is to start. So I had another friend, shout out to Isaac. I went to GameStop one day with my girlfriend, and he was like, yo, you need, and this was after I kind of said it in my head that I'm not going to do it. This one chance encounter with a person I consider my friend was like, no, you should do it. Like, really stop sitting on this and do it. So I just started doing Twitch in 2017. And I was doing Twitch I was broadcasting on Twitch, I should say, not doing Twitch. I was broadcasting on Twitch from my PlayStation 4. And I was doing that for the past 3 years.
Wow.
Up until this summer, where I was finally able to have enough money collected to purchase a gaming PC, a PC that's specifically geared to handle all the capabilities of running live broadcasting and all the video games that I'm downloading and porting and all that other good stuff. So it's been a journey, like truly. And I feel that the Twitch community, it can be really toxic. But so far with the community that has been collected, I can't say I collected this community. I'm just one girl, but the people that like watching me, the people that stay to watch me, and you included, that, the lurkers, got to shout out to my lurkers. people who just, watch it. They don't say anything. They don't type anything. I'm so grateful for people that take the time to even see my channel. So I've just been on that path ever since.
So to dig a little deeper into that. So back when you started streaming back in 2017, you were streaming just through your console all the way through when you became an affiliate in 2019?
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes.
So you built that audience along the way, just strictly based on the console. How were you engaging at that point?
So I went to a gaming convention called a Video Game Con, which was in Parsippany, New Jersey. They had a whole workshop about streaming. So I took my notes and I was like, all right, well, I have my PS4 because I got the PS4 after going to PlayStation Experience 2015 and 2016. So 2016 is when I got 2017 is when I got my PlayStation 4, but I didn't have the camera because I knew from then, obviously I've trained talking to an inanimate object since 2013. I talked to the laptop. I talked to my DSLR camera. I have no qualms about staring into a camera lens and not feeling embarrassed. So I was like, if I'm going to stream, people need to see me. They're going to hear my voice. Yeah, my voice is cool, but you got to see who I am because that's what brings people into the channel as well. If they can't see you, most of the time, your voice has to be really, really entertaining. So I figured, let me go buy this PlayStation 4 camera off of Amazon and set it up. And the first game I ever played is the game called The Wolf Among Us, which is a Telltale game. It's very interactive. And I was only interacting with me, myself, and I. It's not like anyone was really watching me. But July 3rd of 2017, I only did that because my parents, shout out to my parents, went on a vacation and they were like, Joy, you should watch The House. And I was like, okay. And I just streamed. That was the only room that had a good enough background and it was right near the router. And I had my dog next to me, may she rest in peace. And I just started playing the game. And I was like, regardless if anyone comes in or not, I'm just going to talk to myself. And this whole time has just been the PlayStation 4 camera. And then, of course, I got one light, the light that I was using for my DSLR for my YouTube videos. I only have the one light, the one camera, and my PS4, and that's all I've been doing until recently.
I think to hear that, and it's one of those things that I wanna really reinforce to a lot of our listeners is that you don't need the full, $5,000 worth of equipment to become a Twitch content creator or a YouTube creator, as Joy is so eloquently stating. You can very easily start with the bare minimum. And if you're engaging, the games you're playing are fun, and you're genuinely into it, it really is the cliched, if you build it, they will come
Yes,
quote for sure.
Yes, sir. And of course, like I didn't want to rely on my friends. Of course, people are like, you got to watch me. You got to watch me. Hey, I'm going live. But that's annoying. Like if people are going to watch you, they're going to watch you because they want to. If you're begging people to watch you, and side note, I made a whole YouTube video about the 5 tips of being a Twitch streamer. Like I just made up a video and I'm going to make another one. But I didn't want to be like, hey, friends, make sure you promote me. Like as a Twitch streamer, as a content creator, you have to be your own PR. You have to be your own marketing. You have to do that. And I was like, regardless of whether my friends watch me or not, I have to show up in my heart. I have to show up like someone is watching and just be yourself. And like you said earlier, just, be authentically you. And yeah, I still don't know how people find me. I mean, obviously I played the game and people are lurking in those channels, but it's them who decide to come back. I say my schedule is Mondays and Thursdays currently, 9 p.m. If you want to come back on a Monday and you see me, I'm here. Like I try to be as consistent as possible, which again is another tip I said. But yeah, it's really about just doing you, being who you are, and people will see that that's you, and you're not putting a facade in front of the camera just to be likable. So It's been really helpful.
And the beauty of this story, in addition to you just being a Twitch creator, you've taken this now and turned it into a full-fledged brand, branching out into merchandise, podcasting, etc. And I want to start with what was the tipping point for you to decide, I want to take this and brand myself and me become the business?
Well, it was not me alone. I guarantee you. I'm very grateful for, first of all, my girlfriend. Shout out to her. I'm not sure if I could say her name, if she wants me to say her name, or maybe I could. I probably should, because she's got a business too. She's out here. But my girlfriend, aka Tingtastic, she was the first person that's like, we should probably have merch by now. And I was like, well, I have a merch store. I just never promoted it. Right. And I had my logo be on a shirt since probably 2017. I just never told anyone. I never advertised it at all. But she's like, people are going to want to buy your stuff, right? People are out here and you should have that. And I was like, okay. And then I had people from the community, my community that have been watching me for a long period of time. They're like, yeah, you should have your own merch. And I'm like, really? Like, you would actually buy something from me? So I had someone buy a shirt with my logo on it. And I was like, oh my God. So then my girlfriend, who is hella creative and very talented, she had all these ideas, like all these, which again, I'm blessed because not a lot of people have that. People go to like Fiverr, they go and they, find other people that they could hire. But she's the in-house, like I call her my manager, like my manager, baby, manager, artist, like go-to person, the one that has a lot of the ideas behind the channel of how it's operating. Like that's her too. So it's not a lone operation. But she was like, hey, what if I just drew this? Or, hey, remember you said that thing on stream? Like, what if we made that a shirt? Or what if we made that a hoodie? Like, so that was kind of like, wow, someone actually believes, like you believe in my brand enough to put it on a Teespring, because that's what I use, Teespring. And it was 1, 2, 3. Like you just upload the picture up there on Teespring, and then the listing goes live, and then you just wait. Obviously, you promote the store, but then you kind of just see, does anyone want to buy your stuff? So that happened last August, where someone actually bought my shirt for the first time, and I was like, oh my God, like you do care. So then it spiraled. It snowballed into, okay, what else should we put up there? Okay, what else should we do? And then, of course, I'm excited. I never had this happen before. The only time I ever got paid from doing anything I loved was through YouTube, which is once every, I guess, 3 years, and one payoff from Twitch. So it's not, all the time. So then that's when one of my friends, Dominic, he was like, hey, are you an LLC yet? And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, girl, if you're going to be making money from merch, you probably need to have an LLC. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, Joy, look, you see all these other companies out here? Like, it's not so-and-so owns this company. It's like Google LLC, Sony LLC. Like you can't be, you have to have a business, because if something happens, if people see you, they're going to be able to see you directly, right, and not your business. And I was like, oh my God, sir. So then he was like, Joy, take some time out of your day. We will sit here together. And I'm telling you, it's a blessing. And I tell him all the time. And he's like, no. I'm just trying to help others. And I'm trying to help, women like you and people in general, like not people like me, but, artists and creatives like me. Like if I have information, of course I want to share it, because this is not a competition out here. Like, I see that you're doing wonderful things. And I was like, well, thank you so much. And he was like, look, we're going to set together a time and we're going to do this. And he walked me through the LLC process for that, for the merch stuff. And of course, like I'm making sure that anything that I do under Joy Infinity LLC has the merch, the gaming, the podcast, which is basically all you. So, yeah, it was just people taking time to want to help me. I wasn't begging anyone. I sat on the LLC thing for months. And you know how I sat on some stuff for months. The paralysis analysis. I was so scared. And, during the panini, the pandemic, the whatever we're calling it, the Pandora's box, what money did I have to even think about making a company out of something like this? Like, who am I?
Right.
But, luckily people like you, were kind enough to be like, hey, Joy, you should do this. Hey, Joy, did you try this yet? And I thank God for each and every one of you, because it's not, I'm never going to forget that. Because I'm not paying you. I didn't pay anybody to sit here and tell me those things, but just because, and obviously you showed me that kindness, all I'm trying to do is just make sure that everyone out here that I know and love and care for gets the same information and double. So I'm not sitting here being greedy with the knowledge. As soon as I became an LLC, the first thing I did was text all my best friends, like, look, I know how to do an LLC. You want to do this? Let's do it right now. Girl, I can tell you. Boy, I can tell you, like, let's do this, because this is information that is not available to us in high school and college.
Yep.
None of us knew. I'm like, I'm still swimming in $70,000 worth of debt. This would have been really helpful in 2013. So, I just want to make sure that I'm spreading the awareness, spreading the love, spreading the information, so that it's not impossible for us to be business owners. Thank God, to be a business owner and during this quarantine, this pandemic, like, I would have never thought. So
I'm actually glad you touched on that, because it's interesting how so many people, especially, you got your BA from William Patterson, your associates from Brookdale, like you put money into your education, and a lot of it, like you just said, $70,000. And isn't it scary how so many of us between high school, college, like, you get all this book smarts preparation,
yes,
but you don't get those survival tools, like how to fill out a W-2, how to, what the difference is between having dependents and no dependents. It's a very scary concept, and I'm glad you mentioned it, because that's one of those things that so many people, especially so many young kids and young adults now, that are getting into Twitch and content creation, and they're blowing up. They're out there just crushing it, and they have no idea. They have no idea the kind of protections that they require, because they're not teaching them that in school.
Not at all. I mean, and I'll clarify for just those people with Brookdale and with William Patterson. When I went to Brookdale, I went for free because I graduated in the top 20% of my high school.
Wow. All right.
It was a program called NJ Stars. And I was able to get help from my church as well. So it was like Brookdale Community College was free for me. So I had 2 years to get my stuff together. I had 5 semesters. Look, and I best believe I crammed them. I did 6 courses, 5 courses, and the last 3 were 4 courses. So those were free. So I had 2 years, but obviously I was out here trying to get a part-time job, trying to, pay for things, pay for gas, back and forth. When I transferred to William Patterson, that's where I had to pay. And that's where the summer I went, I had no one helping me in terms of like, well, Joy, maybe you should apply for this grant. Maybe you should apply for this. Nothing. The last minute, my mom walked in and was like, maybe you should apply for Sally Mae. I was like, what's Sally Mae?
Exactly.
Worst decision of my gosh darn life. Ruins me to this day. So Sally Mae, aka Navient, Navi won't, Navi ain't having it. I had to borrow, and I went to William Patterson for 5 semesters, but I borrowed for 4. And that alone is why I have $70,000 of debt. And I only went for oh, Jesus. So I only went from 2011 to 2013. So I'm just like, the amount of debt I incurred just to do, and it wasn't even the prerequisites, because I did all that. It was just my main stuff. It's insane. And no one said anything. No one knew anything. I'm the first person in my family, in my immediate family, but my first person in my family to like graduate college. and no one had the knowledge. My parents didn't go to college. Like my mom did, but like, it was Brookdale, same thing. And I was just kind of like, well, no one was out here looking out for us. They can allow us to borrow all this money, but then like you said, I didn't know anything about a W-2
Yep.
until I had to go to work. I didn't know about the taxes that they were taking out.
Mm-hmm.
All I knew was that I can ask for this much amount of money and I can buy a laptop with it because I needed one to finish school. And then, I got to pay this back. All right, well, hopefully that I have a communications degree. There's going to be a job out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, there is no job.
And that's I'm glad that we're going into this aspect of that, because again, right now, your branding, your business, and everything is, yes, you had some building blocks from your academics, but at the end of the day, everything else you were just learning on your own, and because of people sharing the information with you. And this just goes back to what I was saying before. Like, you're going to school, you're learning all this stuff, and it's like you're checking off boxes. Oh, mom and dad, I graduated high school. What do I do now? Oh, well, you go to college. Okay, I graduated college. What do I do now? Oh, I get a job. And the thing about it is that conventional level of thinking just is non-existent. And
yes,
with the pandemic now, I always tell people the pandemic, even though it crippled so many things, it also revealed a lot of inefficiencies.
Yes. I was talking to my parents about that too, in which I'm grateful for the job that I've had, or I have, during all of this. I'm currently furloughed, and I was talking to my parents, and I was like, not to put my parents on the spot, but just being like, guys, when was the last time you actually had to fill out a job application? Yep. When was the last time you had to worry about your health insurance?
Yep.
Like, none of us are going to doctors. I wasn't. I was sitting at home, like, trying to make sure I don't go outside. But I was like, when's the last time you had to really worry about these things? Because you're not paying student loan debt.
Yep.
I mean, my dad's name is, he's a cosigner. But for the most part, I was like, I'm paying those things. And by goodness, it's getting more expensive than when I don't have a job.
Right.
They were raising the prices of my payments. And I'm like, you see, I'm furloughed, right? You see, I'm not currently working. They're like, well, we can shave $5 off. I'm like, are you serious?
Man.
Are you serious? Like, no. So having this time, like you said, it did reveal a lot, where this was something that I thought about in the courses of all of the terrible jobs I've had prior to 2020. All of the terrible jobs I've had, I always thought, if I did have the time, if I was able to be fortunate to take a year off or something, what would I be doing?
Right.
Like, how would I spend it? And, pandemic, kofefe, whatever you want to call this thing, COVID came out, and I was like, well, I'm sending my booty home. Like, I'm not, but what do you do? And right. I'm like, I have all these video games, and now I can figure out what does make me happy. And I tried to use that time as best as possible.
No, and I think that's a big, it's a big reason why I wanted to really share your story, because you took your adversity and you molded it into something that brings you, no pun intended, joy.
Yes.
So the thing about it is, you're sitting here, you're on this journey, you're doing Twitch. I mean, you became Twitch affiliate roughly 2 years ago.
Yes, which is crazy.
So, but think about that. You became an affiliate 2 years ago. You were still grinding and sharing and playing video games just for the love of it. You were playing it for the hell of it, and you weren't looking at the long tail benefit of, I'm going to get paid off of this. You're like, I'm good at this. I have a great sparkling personality. I bring people entertainment and happiness. I'm just going to run with it. And here you are, fast forward 2 years later, and you got a nice following. You have a consistent schedule, and more importantly, you're just continuing to build the brand around what matters most, which is yourself.
Yes. And I want to say that without it sounding conceited or anything, it's the JOYNFINITY brand was literally because I felt like my entire life I was told that it wasn't okay to be me.
Mm-hmm.
And this is insert cue the tears. But when from a child, if y'all don't know who I am or you've never seen me before, I am a Black woman, young Black woman, and I have Black parents. And if you can't tell by my voice, and I was told my entire life, like, shut up, you talk too much. Oh my God, you're too happy to be here. Like
Yep.
everything that made me who I was a weakness in corporate, was a weakness in school, I should
Mhm.
say. Like I had friends. It wasn't about like me not having friends or anything, but when it came to my likes, I was a tomboy. Kind of still am. I loved video games. I loved reading. I liked, getting my work done. I was on the honor roll all the time. I loved I love music. I played the drums. I played violin. Like, thank you. Shout out to my middle school, but the charter school. But all the things that made me my authentic self as I grew older made me different and made me a target from people in my own community being like, insert, oh, she white. She thinks she white. Oh, she thinks she this. Oh my God, she's stuck up. So all my life, I was like, well, why can't I just be myself and like video games? I'm not being in any competition with anyone. So learning that through William Patterson, I was thinking like, well, what can I do? Like, what am I good at? Because I'm not good at math. I'm not good at, science. Like, I'm not good at those things. And all those things people, like my parents wanted me to be a nurse. I'm like, I would hurt someone if I was a nurse. Are you serious? Like the closest I'll ever be a nurse is Nurse Joy from Pokemon. Like I'm going to cosplay and not know anything about nursing.
Right.
So that pivotal moment when I switched majors from being a Japanese language concentration to communications was me reaching out to my friends being like, well, guys, what am I good at? Like, what's something that I am naturally good at that I could actually make a career out of? And my friends were like, well, you know how to talk. Can't you do that? And then of course, I don't want to name that reality show, but I was like, if I could just get paid to breathe, that could be my career. Like, how do people get paid to just be themselves? And all these reality shows popped up. I'm like, well, what if communications? Like, that's a thing, right?
Yep.
Maybe it can be on TV or do something. And of course, finding those channels. And I feel like Twitch is the most authentic way to see me. And I'll go on tangents for minutes at a time before actually playing the video game. But you can see me. I reveal a lot of my life and myself to anyone. And I hope that if it's an example for anyone that you can do it and you can be yourself and you don't have to be me. But Joy Infinity was the whole core of like, I can actually be myself and it's not wrong. Well, it's not a weakness.
And I'm glad that we're touching on that because, when you started your podcast, you talked about that in your 6th episode.
You did research, sir. Oh my God.
Yeah, and bitter. I want to talk about bitter roots and I want to talk about self-care. And I think, being a person of color myself, I think that one of the toughest things is that when we were growing up, and even you being younger than me, it's like being a nerd wasn't cool.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden it's cool. Like now there's, Black anime groups and all this stuff. But you know what the problem is, and you can attest to this being younger also, there's still toxicity in there within our own people.
Oh, completely.
And the thing about it is that people are quick to say, oh, well, it's cool. I like video games too, or I like anime also, but there'll also be the same people that say, hey, you shouldn't cosplay that person because they're not Black. And I think that that's I almost want to say that it's gatekeeping, but it's not because it's our own people.
It is still gatekeeping.
You think so?
But it's also funny because having the experience of what you're saying, it's so funny. The same people that say that, I'm like, you do realize we're all cosplaying a Japanese character, right? You're telling me I can't dress up like, I don't know, Riku from Final Fantasy X-2, who has blonde hair and she wears a bikini or whatever. Let's say I ever have, but I'm like, why are we sitting here arguing about what I can't and can't do? You didn't make up the video game.
Right.
You don't care. Like you just want to have something to say, which is upsetting because you're not spreading positivity. You're just being a bully. And I've had that where I've liked anime and I would have certain white people be like, "Oh, well, you shouldn't watch that. You should watch this. Oh, well, you can't watch that. You won't get it." And I'm like, "But you're not
People
even
want you
Japanese
to check off boxes
either. What do you do?" And then of course they'll pull out the, "Oh, well, I took classes in Japan and I took Japanese and blah blah blah." I'm like, "Okay, but you're still not though. At the end of the day, you are someone that admires the culture just as much as I do."
Right.
There is no, point system for you did all of your, brown nosing ahead of time.
Right.
Like we're all at different ages. And to say being a woman in this stuff is a catch-22.
Well, that leads me to my next question. Talk to me about representation in the streaming space, especially now that you've been in the streaming space for almost 4 years now. Tell me what are some misnomers or some fallacies with regards to being a woman or a person of color in this space, and what are some truths?
It has been a journey. I am so grateful to be a part of a community called Black Girl Gamers. Now, when I mentioned I went to PlayStation Experience in 2015, I went by myself. And 2015 and 2016, I went by myself. But in 2015, I made a friend who was also a Black girl from California, because that's where PlayStation Experience usually happens, in California. So I went and I didn't have a community. I didn't have friends that were Black women to go with and to talk to. So after I came back from PlayStation Experience 2015, I was like, well, I should find, we exist, right? Like we exist. Black girls, I exist. So there should be other Black women that, and this is not to just say I need to just have Black women friends. I don't care who you are, male, female, non-binary, gender non-conforming. I'm like, I just want to speak to people that are going to bring positivity to the space. And I don't care what game, whether you like PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox, insert game here. If you can have fun, that's the whole point. So I found Black Girl Gamers in November of 2016. And I was just, seeing other people, seeing other women being like, "Oh my God, I like this game. I like this game." And that was before I started streaming myself. I was looking to them for encouragement because I've seen some of them do it. And they were telling me about the positives and the negatives about being called out and having quote unquote men test you. Like I'm trying to play a video game. Let's say I'm playing Castlevania, which I know is a classic, obviously, but they'll sit there and they'll play the game wholeheartedly. And then you'll see comments being like, "Well, did you play the first one? And do you know about Alucard? And do you know about this?" And it's like, I didn't pay for no gosh darn test right now. Like, I just want to play the game.
Right.
Versus, or not versus, but also, not only am I being tested about the game, but I'm also being sexualized at the same time. Because if you're in front of the camera, you were in front of the camera. I'm not, and I don't put on makeup. I don't put on I put on a costume recently because I played Later Daters and I was, I was Abuelita Alegría. Like I was out here being Grandma Joy, but there are a lot of gorgeous women, gorgeous, people that stream. And a lot of the time the comments are very sexualized too. And you have to be, tough at this point. I'm learning to be tough on screen now, but if you don't have people that are your moderators, people that are looking out for you, because you're not only are you playing the game, but you're also moderating your own chat. And there have been a couple times where I've seen some slurs in my chat, and I'm like, I'm just playing Final Fantasy. Like, why are you being so mean? So, or why are you sexualizing me right now while I'm playing Crash Bandicoot? Like, can you not, person?
Right.
Like, it's so weird. So, that has definitely been something that has been on my mind ever since YouTube, where if you're putting yourself out there, you're putting yourself out there out of your own volition. Like, hey, what you put on the internet, it's forever. So you should be okay with what you're doing. But that doesn't excuse the fact that people are really just out here trying to get a rise out of you.
Right.
So, being a Black woman in gaming, me personally, has mostly been positive, but I have seen the horror story and read the horror stories of other people that have had way worse situation happen to them. And I'm just like, oh my God, I just hope to God that never happens. And even if it does, I don't want it to destroy my, anything I've ever done, or I don't want to destroy friendships or, make it seem like I'm out here trying to be someone that I'm not. Like it's just you just want to enjoy pun intended. You just want to enjoy being who you are and playing video games. Like there's no other rules to this, but like you said, there are certain people that'll either love you until you do something wrong, which,
Right.
What is that? Or they just want to hate on you because you're doing it and you seem like you have all your stuff together, and they just want to find the crack in your armor to be like, well, you're doing this, but so-and-so is doing this better. And it's like, okay, and I don't stream to be in competition with anyone else. I'm just doing it for me. And if you like to be here, please be respectful and, Carrie, be about your business. So it definitely has a lot to it, but for the most part, it's been very good for me. And I say this stumbling, but it's been good for me, and it's been good to also make friends on this space. I'll say that again. It's also been good for me to make friends on this space because I've met friends in this quarantine. I've never met them in real life.
Right.
But they've been wonderful in terms of being positive, having fun, checking up on me. I've had many a struggle stream, shout out to Jabba-chan, and she's been someone who's been like, hey, Joy, maybe you should do this, or check your mic, or did you do this? And here's how you do this in OBS Studio, and check this out. And I've had people that are trying to help me for the greater good, and not just to be like, well, I helped you, so now you have to help me, So yeah, it's been really good. And I'm blessed, continuously grateful for everything.
So obviously now that we've tackled the building of this, let's get into your podcasting endeavors. And the reason that I want to get into that is because it was new territory for you as a creator. But
yes,
I want to know where you felt you needed to be with the podcast to differentiate it from you and your stream.
Yes. So back in 2016, I'm saying these things because some of these years were the worst years of my life. I was at a very horrible job, and my coworker friend, that's what I call people, my co-friend. If we made friendships at work and we're no longer working there, you're my co-friend. So my co-friend was the first person to be like, hey, Joy, you should listen to podcasts. And I was like, ew, podcast. Like, I stay glued to my iPod. Why do I need to listen to people talk and I can't see them like YouTube? He's like, and this is my friend Brian, so shout out to Brian. He's like, trust me, Joy, you're gonna love it. And I was like, all right, whatever. So I tried it, and I did listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson's podcast. And I was like, okay, this is cool. And then I was like, well, at the time, I really liked K-pop, which that can go into a whole different world path. But I found this podcast called Chin Cha Cha, which they recently just ended the show in 2020. So I just heard two Black women. One of them, girl Davis, she is from England, and the other girl, April Jackson, they're grown women. She was from Kansas City, Missouri. Kansas City, Missouri. And they were just talking about K-pop, and everything else in between. And I was like, wow, I can literally sit here and listen to these two Black women for hours. I mean, their episodes were like 3.5 hours long. Wow. And I was just cracking up. I was crying. I was agreeing with them, sitting in my chair during my 8-hour shifts. And I was like, oh my God, I can't get enough of this. And this is where that podcast bug as a fan happened. So I just loved podcasts in my own secret world. Of course, I love video games, but I was like, yeah, I'm going to listen to this podcast and Chin Cha Cha and blah, blah, blah. And I started listening to other podcasts. And I was like, oh my God, this is cool too. And I kept that to myself to get me going through corporate America in terms of the different jobs I had. I would just always have one earbud in and listen to podcasts. It wasn't until I was hired as an audio engineer at Gotham Podcast Studio, where I thought there was no way I was ever going to be in the podcasting world. I'm just a fan.
Right.
And then I was able to be an engineer, and I was like, wow, this is cool. Like, I get to be in this whole other world where it seems that I can actually and wholeheartedly be myself. Like, I didn't have to put on a mask to come to work for the first time. And I was just like, oh my God, I can just be who I am. And having the leadership of Mike, Matt, and Brianna during that time in 2019 when I was hired, I was like, oh my God, like I can just show up. And of course I'm working. I'm trying to make sure I'm the best audio engineer that I can be. Then I started to, obviously I'm engineering other people's podcasts. And I was like, okay, this is fun because I'm literally getting paid to listen to be introduced to all these other people I've never met before and I've never listened to before. So I was obviously doing my job, but I was taking an interest in like, wow, these people can really come together at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, 6 o'clock in the evening, 8:30 p.m. And they just talk about everything under the sun. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. And I was like, you know what? If I ever had a podcast, like what would I do? And that's something that had always been flying around the hallways. Like, yeah, you see all these people come in for the first time being first time podcasters. Like, oh, what should I do? They're asking me for advice. Like I've been here for 2 years. I'm like, I've only been here like 3 months, ma'am. I don't know what to tell you. Just be yourself. So doing that job, I was watching and observing and taking notes, not because I thought I'm going to have a podcast someday for real. But I was like, wow, so this is what they do. They're being themselves. And this seems, familiar. Like maybe I can do that one day. And sitting down and taking notes and going through the different events and seeing other people and seeing the progression of their podcast. I was like, you know what? Joy, for real. Like if you did have a podcast, what would you do? And I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to have this idea. And it took me even months to even make a serious note, like Joy podcast ideas. And I would just start writing what I could do. And I noticed, what was different from other people's that they're doing or they're not doing. And I'm like, okay, well, I know if I were to have something, maybe I would do it this way. And if I have to do something, I need to have music. I need to have this. I need to have a theme. I need to have this. So all of those months of watching other people and being a part of their journey inspired me to write what my journey could be like. And then I sat on it for months and months. I didn't even want to tell anybody my idea because I was so scared that someone was going to steal it. And I was like, I can't tell you what it is. Because people would ask me, Joy, when are you going to have a podcast? You seem so natural. I'm like, well, I have an idea, but I don't know. And then I would go to these meetups and physical meetups, and I wouldn't say anything because I'm working the event. And I'd be like, oh, I have an idea in my head, but I just haven't, said anything about it. I don't even know what to call it. I'm so scared. And then the meetup that changed my life, you, sir, introduced me to paralysis analysis. And of course, my girlfriend was being encouraging too. She was definitely being like, well, maybe you could do this and you should do this and you should do this. And I was like, well, it just seems so overwhelming. And you were like, girl, get out of that paralysis analysis. And then on top of that, you were like, I'm going to give you this assignment. You need to record an episode, at least 2 episodes before this month is over. Like I'm going to check up on you. And I was like, oh my God, he is being so thorough and he's being so consistent. Who is this man I've never met in my entire life? And you were like, you put me to task. You were like, look, I'm going to check up on you next month. You should have something. Just record something. You got to do it. You have an idea. You have the tools. Just do it. Like you've done this. You've been doing it for other people. Like you should just do it. Go for it. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm telling you, within the next couple of days, I was so scared and I finally recorded it. And wow. And I'm kind of on that analysis paralysis again, now that I know I need to be recording more episodes, but this pandemic definitely changed my perspective on episodes that I should be recording or should be releasing. And I definitely had a whole lineup of episodes prior that I changed because I was like, well, we need to talk about this now. So I changed up my whole episode lineup, but now I'm kind of like, I didn't record anything yet. I did record one interview, but for the most part, I haven't recorded any of my solo episodes. So I am kind of back on that analysis paralysis, but you know, I definitely am putting myself the task like, Joy, you need to just sit down and whatever it's going to be, you can obviously edit. You can turn it into something. Just do it though. Just record.
Well, I noticed you were doing the seasons, which is a great way to approach it. People that are doing seasons that kind of get into those little creative ruts, you just need to recharge. So think of it this way. Think of, hey, season 1 is going to be 13 episodes. Then I'm going to take a 1 month break. And then season 2 is the season premiere. And then it's a whole bunch of new topics. I think maybe seasonal might be the approach for you since you already have that season numbering going on in your podcast currently. I think it might be a great approach. Everybody's workflow is a little different, but with regards to just preparation and kind of getting out of your own way, sometimes you need that disconnect to recharge. Plus, it's a good way to just build up the excitement for the season premiere of the next show.
Yes, and I know I kind of want to thank Michelle Obama because at the same time that I was doing all this stuff and still editing, she released her podcast, the Michelle Obama podcast. So I was like, oh my God, it's like the JOYNFINITY Podcast where she's talking to her friends and she's, touching on so many different topics. And she put out 10 episodes, just like how I put out 10 episodes. So I'm kind of like, well, I haven't heard anything about Michelle Obama's podcast in the last couple months either. So I shouldn't be rushing myself because whenever Michelle Obama comes out with her episodes, I need to be prepared so that I can release my episodes, like in a way.
Michelle Obama's your spirit animal for this adventure.
In a way, she's my podcast goddess in terms of like, because you are the god. You're the one that like literally told me, look, do this. But having Michelle Obama do it too, because it was her first venture into podcasting, I was like, wow, I am doing something right. Because if she's doing this and she did 10 episodes, like how I did 10 episodes, okay, maybe, next time I need to do something and, maybe it'll come out at the same time as hers. I don't know. I just felt like I'm on the right path. But like you said, once I got so caught up with all the other stuff of the business, I was like, okay, I know the main thing is now that I'm an LLC, I need to figure out how to pay taxes because I don't want to owe the IRS, not a gosh darn thing.
Nope.
So that was the thing that was scariest to me because my entire working life, I spend January sulking and being upset about tax season.
Right.
And then February, the first week of February, I pay my taxes. I suck it up and I pay the taxes. This time, because I am an LLC and of course I was working, I have my W-2 and stuff. I actually hired wonderful Black women who are tax accountants to help me. And they took their time. They did the due diligence to make sure that my taxes were good. Like they weren't just being like, all right, we just need this check and whatever. Like they did, walk through it with me, the QuickBooks thing, like making sure I had QuickBooks and, looking through, and I'm again, business stuff, but I didn't know any of that stuff. So now that I have that giant stone out of my way, I do want to focus back on the podcast and record episodes while I'm still here to do so.
And what was the business that helped you with your taxes, just so we could pay it forward and give them some love?
Yes, of course. I definitely want to make sure that they are shouted out to the Most High because and they're sisters. They're really, really nice. They're really kind. They are in Union, New Jersey. I'm just making sure that I can get to their,
that way I can put it in the show notes and share it with the listeners also.
Yes, of course. I want to make sure that I'm having the right people here. This is, where are they? It's tax to. Okay, so their business is Tax Lady 2, and it's Union County LLC. So Tax Lady 2, Union County LLC. They're in Union County, New Jersey. And because my business is situated in New Jersey, JOYNFINITY LLC, I was like, well, I'm going to make sure I find women in New Jersey, specifically Black women specifically Black women in New Jersey to, support Black business. I feel like that's going to be a whole sentence, but I want to make sure that, especially with everything that was going on in 2020, that I wanted to support Black businesses and mean it, put my money where
Right.
my mouth was, not just, well, I don't see anybody out here. No, I'm part of a group on Facebook called Black Owned New Jersey. So there was no excuse for me to not find Black people that could prepare your taxes. Like, Black people can do a ton of things. Like, it's not just about, the stereotypical stuff.
Of
So
course.
Tax Lady 2, Union County.
Number 2 or TOO?
The number 2. On Instagram, they're Tax Lady 2, the number 2, UC. So uniform.
Got him.
C. Yeah, like uniform something else. But C is in Charlie. Uniform Charlie. Oh my gosh, I should know this. But Tax Lady U is in the number. Man, I keep doing this. Tax Lady 2 is in the number 2. U is in uniform. C is in Charlie. They're on Instagram. I follow them on Instagram. And they were wonderful women who called me anytime. They were like, hey, I have a question about this. Oh, hey, do you have this form? Do you have that form? Like, they were really, really helpful and made sure that I got the most of my return, especially me being a first time small business owner. I was like, well, I don't know the first thing about any of this. So yeah, they were really wonderful ladies. So,
and you ended up using QuickBooks to track all your expenses and all your stuff, right?
Yes. And that was something that my silly self, I paid for QuickBooks in November because they suggested, like, you probably need to do this. And I was like, okay, I'll pay for QuickBooks, but I never logged into it. So I'm spending all this money and for QuickBooks and not using it. And then there were, like, just like you, they were checking up on me being like, hey, Joy, did you, go through your receipts? Did you reconcile things? Like, what's going on? And I was like, oh my God, I need to do that. So I took 3 days to, like, go through all of the transactions from all of my banks that I had connected to QuickBooks Online, because I didn't pay for the software separately. I'm using it online. Right. And I was like, I'm paying for this, because my whole thing was I have to write down every receipt, everything I've ever spent money on. And they were like, well, you have QuickBooks for that. Duh. And I was like, they didn't say it like that, obviously, but they were like, you have QuickBooks. That's why you're paying for it. And I was like, oh my God. So, yeah, I just there's an option in QuickBooks Online. You can give your accountant access to your stuff. And they did warn me ahead of time. Like, there are some people that are very peculiar about it's your banking stuff. It's
right, of course,
what you spend your money on. So she was like, I'm going to ask you some personal questions. And if you don't feel comfortable, definitely let me know. But this is what you spent your money on. So you shouldn't be surprised. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm not doing anything inappropriate. So,
or you were putting all your expenses through QuickBooks, meaning like your cable, your broadband and all your stuff was going through QuickBooks at the time, right?
Well, with my bank situations, yes, because I had to, I had multiple bank accounts that I put through QuickBooks, and I had to reconcile, well, what's this one for? What's that one for? Because sometimes it comes up and sometimes it didn't. I had to, self-identify, well, this was for my internet. This was for, something I did. Cause I did a couple panels too, being on Twitch and having the community. Yeah, I was actually on a couple panels, which was
look at
really
you. Awesome.
Looking back in the summer of 2020, like, I actually did a couple panels and I got paid for one. And I was really surprised, because normally it's like, you're on a panel, you said your opinion, bye. Like, your payment is exposure, basically. So, there were certain things I had to reconcile, and she was just like, yeah, just make sure you do that. And then you give me access to it. And then I'll help you to make sure that this is what it is. And this is what you're saying. And that this is, everything here you're consenting to, and then it is the truth. And yeah, then she took care of it within a day or two. And she was like, you're good. This is how much it is. Bam. This is how much you're getting back. This is how much the pay is, and how much you have to pay, and blah, blah, blah. And you're good.
That's outstanding.
So yeah, it was just really nice. It's just, I just forgot about QuickBooks because I thought I had to do it through an Excel spreadsheet. And then they were like, and then my girlfriend was like, don't you pay for QuickBooks? And I was like, oh yeah. So that was something that I had to learn for the first time. And of course, because I don't know anything about the business part, I was so scared. If it's something that's unknown to me, I get scared.
Yep.
But once I did it, I was like, oh, that wasn't so bad. That was pretty good. And I'm happy that I didn't have to use TurboTax, and like how the years I've been working, I always just did TurboTax by myself. And
Right.
to have, two wonderful women stand up for me and be like, well, no, we're going to do your taxes. Make sure that you aren't, Uncle Sam isn't going to come for you. Was a blessing and a relief. So that helped me a heck of a lot. Oh, goodness. Oh, the trials.
I want to circle back a little bit to the podcast, because I know you were saying that you had started working as an audio engineer. Now, when you took that job, did you already have a background in audio engineering based on your college work?
Yes, mostly because when I switched to the communications broadcast journalism, William Patterson has a program. I mean, I don't know how it is now in 2021, but back in 2011, that major consisted of learning different perspectives or different avenues of communication. So I learned audio.
Wow. Okay.
I learned, so it wasn't just television. It was television, it was audio, it was radio. And they introduced me to Audacity. They introduced me to different programs that back in that time, they're like, you got to know this. They taught us, hey, have you ever done a blog before? Open up a Tumblr. That was part of those were assignments for me.
Wow.
Open up a Tumblr, make 5 pods, make 5 blog posts. Audacity. Have you ever heard of a podcast? Make an audio recording, chop it up.
Outstanding.
Yeah. So they had, and again, so shout out to that part, because I didn't know the first thing. So I at least had experience or was exposed to audio engineering of some kind.
Right.
But other than that, I wasn't really using it in my real life, my real life.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't using it in my other life because I had to study for other stuff. And then, once I got into the corporate world and working, like no one even asked me about that stuff.
Right.
It was honestly just talking to, shout out to Raul, just talking about how I learned all this stuff in college, but I never can use it anywhere, was something that he was like, hey, you got a resume? And I was like, yeah. But honestly, learning about that stuff in college and having the tools, like I learned about, not only did I learn about audio engineering, but I learned about video editing, because I had to do 2 documentaries. So before I graduated William Patterson, I had to do 2 documentaries, and my last one was a capstone. I had to do a 5-minute documentary and a 10-minute documentary. And how was I supposed to do that? Like, I've never done a documentary in my life, but I had the teachers to tell me, the counselors, and, Google and YouTube saved my life. So honestly, even when I graduated, it's through the internet gods of Google and YouTube that got me to want to take this into a creative space where it wasn't just doing it for a company or doing it for someone. It was really just learning it myself and applying it to what makes me happy. And video games was the core of that. It was like, if I can be myself and play video games, then, and somehow find a way to get paid for that's amazing. So that's why I just figured, well, audio engineering, like editing audio, was really fun for me, just doing it for the assignments that I had to do. But then, of course, the concentration was broadcast journalism. So it took me away from audio, and it put me more into, you're going to be an anchor. You're going to be someone that's going to be an intern for Eyewitness News or NBC. And you have to know how to be camera ready. You have to know how to do this, and you have to know how to do that, to the point where I also was on a talk show at school. I was on a collegiate talk show program called The Roundabout, where it was me and 3 other hosts. And we were on TV. We were on our college TV, and we won an award for being on camera.
Wow.
And basically being a college version of The View. That's what it was.
Oh, that's awesome.
And if you go to William Patterson, you can see my photo is there with the women. So it's not like it didn't happen. It totally did. But that's where I got my training to at least know how to conduct myself in this communications world. And again, that was 2013. To finally be able to sit in 2020/2021 to finally feel comfortable doing this on my own, and obviously not completely on my own, but having support like you and support like my girlfriend and my friends and even my family. Like some of my cousins were like, "Oh, I saw you do that thing on YouTube." And I'm like, "What? You seen me?" So it definitely has been a journey that I could have obviously never predicted, but it's a blessing to finally do something that I want to do, and it's fun. And no one's pressuring me and no one's telling me how to do this and do that. And it's just so cool that it's my name and my face and people actually like it.
Tell me,
it's awesome.
Tell me a little bit about the Korean pop music flash mob that you did.
Why do you know about that? Oh my God. So that was, again, another time where I was sad in college. I just transferred to William Patterson and I didn't have any friends. And I got into Korean pop music back in like 2008, 2009. Or no, 2000. I'm saying this because I'm a K-pop vet and I don't want anyone to be like, well, she doesn't know what she's talking about. So basically 2007, I knew about K-pop. So I don't want to hear any all this, well, you don't know such and such. And my favorite girl band, my favorite girl group of all time, Korean girl group, is Girls' Generation, Soyeonshide. And I was like, I saw so many people do these flash mobs. And I was like, oh my God, they need to come to New York City. We have Madison Square Garden. Like, are you kidding? And this was a time where they weren't coming over to America unless it was for something really, really big.
Right.
So I was like, you know what? And this was probably my first real life prior to, streaming, talking to strangers, which is really dangerous, talking to strangers to meet me in New York in public to do a dance that we're all learning together. So I had a group of friends who we all liked K-pop together, and we put together, well, I didn't put together the choreography. Someone else did that. But she was awesome. Her name was Danielle. Her name is Danielle. Not like anyone's not alive, but we put together the choreography of what we wanted to say or what we wanted to put in the dance. And then she recorded it and put it on YouTube. And then I created the Facebook group, We Want a SM Town NYC. And that was basically, we wanted a concert in New York City. We need to promote this so that other people, I'm sure we can't be the only people that feel this way. So we made the group, made the song. They recorded the song. We did a smash up. Again, I didn't do the song.
Right.
I didn't do the video stuff. Those were my friends. They did that stuff. I was just the one that made the Facebook group, and I was like, yeah, we're going to do this. And then we all collectively were like, all right, we should do it at this park. We should do it at this place. And we did a trial run in in Central Park. We did it in Central Park. Well, I'm sorry, that wasn't a trial run. See, I'm getting it all mixed up because it was so long ago. Wow, you brought this up. We did it early because a Korean television station saw our Facebook group. So they were like, we want to record you guys early. So they recorded us in Central Park. But the main goal was to record ourselves in Times Square. And we did that. So me being 21 years old, freshly 21 years old, gathered a bunch of preteens and their parents, which scared the entire soul out of me because I was like, dear God, if any of these kids get approached or, kidnapped, like it's on me.
Right.
They know my name. Like, it's not like, oh, Joy from the internet. I put my whole name out there, like Joy Nickens. Hey, and then the kids would be like, hey, I told my parents I'm meeting you and blah, 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 such and such. So I was giving out my number, my cell phone number. Look, if y'all need anything, you need me to beat up somebody, New York is crazy. I'm a Jersey girl, but I will throw some fisticuffs. So I had all my friends, and we all went we walked, and this is how Jersey I am. I didn't trust the subways, and I still don't. We walked from Madison Square Garden to Times Square in the hot sun. We walked those blocks and got out the boom box and just did it.
Wow.
Yeah. And we recorded it, and people looked at us weird. And regardless of whether you knew the dance or not, you was out there, and we celebrated and we cheered. And I was like, that is the biggest accomplishment I will ever do in my entire life.
Now, the show that picked that up, was that a style for you?
What happened?
The show that picked that up, was that the style for you show?
No. It was I think it was KBS.
Okay.
Like Korean Broad. It was one of them. It wasn't a style for you. That was later. That was for, oh my gosh, a style for you. That might've been when I was doing Ninja. I did the Ninja restaurant interview. Wait, but was it a style for you? Because look, you got the notes. Oh my God. If it was a style for you, I'm so sorry, but I don't think it was. I think a style for you was for the Ninja restaurant. Okay. But it was so long ago. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. I just wanted to, show prep and things jump out, and, seeing stuff on your LinkedIn. And I was like, all right, I want to ask her about this and this. So
shoot, let me go. Cause I know I saved those things. I saved those things for myself. Cause I was like, well, I need to make sure that I do keep that.
Oh, good. No worries. You're not on the hook for it. It's all good.
I'm like, where was this thing? It was, oh yeah. Yep. Wait. Yeah. A style for you was, from, the Ninja thing. The K-pop flash mob thing, that was through Music Bank.
Ah, okay.
That was a music show that they still have. I'm sure they still have it in South Korea, but they were they were there too to record that. So it was just, they helped record us twice. They were like, well, we're going to have you in Central Park. And then of course we're going to record you again in Times Square. Cause we need to do that because back then it was so crazy seeing a multitude of ethnicities dancing to Korean pop music. And of course they're like, do you know what they're saying? And I'm like, no, but I'm listening to music in Spanish. You don't ask me if I understand what Daddy Yankee says. Like, this
is true.
I just know about some gasolina. I don't know what he's saying, but it's fire. Like, that junk is hot. I barely knew Mambo number 5. Like, you don't ask me about the languages. You just know that the beat is amazing. And through the language of music that it's heartfelt, it's fun, it's dangerous, it's crazy.
Universal.
It's universal. So I thought the flash mob was like the biggest thing that I would ever do in my career. And then months later, they actually had a concert that I went to. Like, they had an SM Town.
That's pretty cool. That's a hell of a way to bring it full circle.
Oh my God. And I was like, oh my God. Like, they did it. They actually did it. And of course, my favorite girl group, Girls' Generation, I was like, obviously now I need to meet them. And that wouldn't happen until like a year or two later, where I actually got to meet them because they had a concert. Oh my God. Did you hear that or no?
No, I did not.
Okay. I'm so sorry. It was OBS. OBS did something. Someone followed me on Twitch, and because I'm using OBS, it pops up in the OBS.
Oh, well, that's fine. Yeah, I didn't get nothing here, so you're good. You're safe.
Okay, thank God. Oh, because I was like, it just got really loud, and I was like, Jesus Christ. Jesus, I'm so sorry. But I actually got to meet Girls' Generation because they had a concert in New York City. Like, they had their own separate concert, and I was like, oh my God, I need to meet them. And I got to meet them because they had an album, The Boys, that came, their titled album is called The Boys, and they had a meet and greet. And I almost didn't do it because that required me to drive into the city at 4:00 in the morning.
Wow.
To have a spot held for me so that I would go back online at 12 p.m.
Jeez.
to wait until 7 p.m. to meet these women. And lo and behold, at that time, I had a whole fiance, and he was like, yeah, we're going to do this, right? Because you love them. And I did. And I got to meet 8 out of the 9 women.
Wow.
Of Girls' Generation. One of them had another obligation in South Korea, but I got to meet them and I cried like a baby. One of the best things of my life was to be able to go up to them and be like, your music changed my life. Like, I did a flash mob because of you. Like, it's to be able to have that experience with an artist, a musical artist who, again, and they know English too, but that was like, if me doing this on the internet gets things done, I need to do more of this. So Girls' Generation, oh my God, I never thought I would talk about K-pop on this, on this recording.
Yeah, you see how it goes. Well, it's good too, because that's a great segue into our Q&A, which is the hot seat. It's going to be rapid fire questions. Some of the stuff is going to be stuff you're into, stuff that relates to your business, of course, a bunch of different things in between. No pressure, and it, like I said, it's just going to be fun. So I'm going to start with an easy one, and that is, what was the first video game you played?
Sonic 2.
Nice. That's a classic and a favorite of mine.
Yeah, I feel like that's the one that I can remember as early. I mean, I can ask mi primos, my cousins, Carlo and Antonio. Mostly Carlo though, because Carlo was introducing me. Shout out to mi primo Carlo. He introduced me to stuff when I was like 3, and he is my my geek guru, my sensei in terms of all things amazingly geek. And he's a wonderful, strong, tall, kind-hearted Black man. And we are Afro Latinx, so we have our roots in Costa Rica and Panama and Jamaica, and of course being here in the city in New York and New Jersey. So the first game I can remember is Sonic 2, because that was the game I got that my dad bought me, from Sega Genesis. But if there was anything earlier, Carlo would probably know about it.
There you go. So, but I'll go with Sonic 2. That game is great. There was so much fun with that game. Sega's super underrated when it comes to that franchise,
And the music,
Yep.
and I know I said this in my podcast, which I know I'm going to make an episode about Sonic's music, but
Yep.
Sonic 2's soundtrack,
Outstanding.
oh my God.
Oh, the underwater stages when he was going to drown. Do, 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 do. Oh, it was so good.
Oh my God. I didn't know what anxiety was back then, but that's what it was. So yeah, Sonic 2 changed my life.
And the music for the last stage when you fight the robot Robotnik in the space station.
Oh my God.
So good.
Fire. And I don't know. I mean, we all have it in our brains and our memories, but do we ever physically talk about it out loud? No. Sonic, man, Sonic music. Shout out to Sega and the Sonic team. And if you all haven't played Sonic Mania, I'm not getting paid to say this, but y'all need to play Sonic Mania, because that's the thing that we probably as fans have been waiting for to play. And that was a basically fan-made game in the beginning. So if y'all haven't played Sonic Mania, y'all need to play that.
I think you should do a Blast from the Past stream and play Sonic 2 straight for nostalgia on your stream.
You know what? I do have my Sega Genesis. I do have to, because I have, for some reason, 3 Sega Genesis consoles in a cardboard box outside. I need to, and I feel like I might have Sonic 2, but I might have to go back to my house for that to find Sonic 2. But if not, I could probably find Sonic 2
Well, they're
somewhere.
always discounting those Sega Genesis minis with the HDMI. They're always getting rid of those for cheap.
Oh, duh, you're right. Duh. What am I doing? Duh. Yeah, I need to get a Sega mini thingy and then just play. I would love to do that. I could probably do that. Thank you.
There you go. That would be pretty awesome. So, what are 3 mobile apps you can't live without?
Oh my God. As of right now, it's gonna sound crazy, but Instagram, Twitter, and Gmail.
Nice.
I say that because I push a lot of my business through Instagram, and a lot of the opportunities that I've gotten recently, especially through this pandemic, have been through Twitter.
Wow, really?
I'm so serious, and I will tell you. So when it comes to me streaming, I stream 3 to 4 hours twice a week, and I chop that up. I find one moment that's a minute long, and I put it on my Instagram. So I'm posting and I'm tagging the companies, I'm tagging the developers, the people that made the game. I try to tag them so that they can see not only did I play the game, but I also write words and I tag them in the photo and
showing
stuff.
them love.
I'm showing, and it's free promotion. And it's a lot of the time it does help because there are games that I've played that people have been like curious about, or they're like, oh, well, that was a funny moment that you had, Joy. That was fun. I want to play that game too. So when I was doing that, it just, gets that love out there. But when it comes to community, I saw and I'm seeing that a lot of the video game companies and developers, they're looking for content creators. They're looking for Twitch streamers to play their games. And they will give out stream keys. They'll give out keys for you to play them. Obviously, you're going to want to stream the game. So it's like free promotion for them, free promotion for you. And most definitely the best part about this is if, of course, you're someone that actually like legit cares and you're not just taking advantage of people. What I was blessed to do, be a part of, thanks to Black Girl Gamers, and also like thank God for just following people that know other people on the internet and following people that want to give content creators a chance. They will retweet, hey, so-and-so company is looking for so-and-so content creators to stream this game. Reach out to them, DM them, do this, blah, blah, blah. And, don't be a jerk. Literally be like, hey, this is who I am. I can help. Let me know if you're available. And I was blessed enough to stream or work with Team 17 to stream 2 of their games. And it was for free. And I've still to this, I've paid for the games though. Like that's the thing. They'll give me the game for free, obviously to like get me started and stuff, but I'll pay for the game because I believe in it so much. Right. So I've worked with Team 17 and they were really nice, like really, really nice. The one woman, her name is Lauren, and she was from start to finish, very helpful. And that's why I'm like, I can't not have Twitter, because before I wasn't using Twitter for anything. I was like, oh, it's toxic. It's terrible. But I'm learning that gaming opportunities are there on Twitter more so than ever. So Instagram, Twitter, and email, Gmail, because you got to check your emails. Like you literally need to check these emails, and people will message you the craziest opportunities. And if you're not checking your email, like, what are you doing? So, sure. And make sure you have all your links on all your channels. Make sure that everyone knows what your email is, because that's the thing too. If companies can't find a way to contact you, they're gonna move on. Yep. There are millions of people out here that have their stuff together. So those 3 are my main things.
What's one of your most used programs besides OBS Studio?
On my PC?
Yep.
Steam. I haven't done a lot of stuff on my PC. It's still new to me.
Right.
Because the only time I've ever touched a PC was for work purposes only. So to have this wonderful custom-made PC by Whitebox PC, I got to shout him out.
Yep.
I don't know the full capabilities of my PC. So the most that I've done is OBS Studio.
Right.
But the games I'm playing that I've paid for, they're from Steam. And my friends and my community, the fam, aka the Empire, they were like, Joy, I know that you're a PlayStation disciple. Like you love your PlayStation, you love Sony. And side note, I got to work for them after college. Like I got to be an intern for them too. So dream come true, dream job secured, dream position or whatever. Like I actually got to work for my dream company, like which was lit. But as an intern, and it died. But they were like, Joy, once you get a PC, you need to get a Steam account. You need to get like Humble Bumble. Yep. You need to find all these other websites, because there's so many deals out there for PC. Like, yeah, I know you want to support Sony too, but like, look, you can get the same game like half the price. And I was like, oh my God. So Steam is the main one, because I'll play my games on OBS with the Elgato capture card, and I'll play it directly on my PC from Steam. So Steam.
Nice. All right. What's your favorite piece of tech besides your phone or your computer?
Oh my God. Oh my goodness gracious. My favorite piece of tech besides my phone and my computer. I mean, my phone and my phone and my computer.
Yep.
My iPad.
All right. You got an iPad in the mix.
Well, the thing is, I have to pay homage or give respect to my iPad because first of all, I didn't even want it. I was like, I don't even think I need an iPad. And this was the first time I was this was the first time I was on unemployment where I was so sad about myself and my situation. And I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to buy myself an iPad. And I did. And turns out it was wonderful because my phone at the time was so small and my, MacBook computer was so big. I needed something, in the middle I can take it anywhere. I can take it to go. And I've used my iPad. This is the only iPad I've ever had. I used it on my jobs recently. Like it's gone with me everywhere. And I'm so grateful to have the iPad. But it's so funny that I got the iPad on my first bout of unemployment. And then with this Panasonic pandemic, the second expensive piece of equipment I got was a whole gaming PC. So it's just crazy. I would say my PC, but
right.
iPad started it.
Do you read on your iPad also, or do you just use it for other content consumption?
All of it. I read on my iPad. I do love having the physical books. Like I am also someone who, again, going back to my mis primos, Antonio and Carlo, like I've gotten into reading comics. So I like to support physically,
Nice.
but also if I can't, I'm able to, buy the book, whether it's Comixology or buying them on Apple, Apple Books or,
Right.
Things like that. So
What are you
I
reading?
do a lot. What am I currently reading?
Yep.
Well, I haven't physically read this, but I just finished Taraji P. Henson's book, Around the Way Girl.
Really? I
But
didn't even know she had one.
Oh my gosh, it is so good. Like it's an audiobook. So I bought a bunch of audiobooks and then I sat on them for so long because I was, running back and forth to the city and, the city's so loud. I couldn't really hear, the stuff, with people in the train. And then I have to walk and all this other stuff. So the last 2 weeks, actually, I just finished. What was the other book I read? Okay. So 2 weeks ago, I finished the book A Blade So Black. And that one is by L.L. McKinley. And that was a fantasy book, or it is a fantasy book. And it's basically Alice in Wonderland, but Alice is black. And it's amazing. So I was like, you know what? I have to continue what other audiobooks that I have that I've been sitting on. And Taraji P. Henson's book, Around the Way Girl, I was like, oh, I definitely wanted to listen to this book. And I love when the audiobooks are read by the author of the book. So having Taraji explain her life was just amazing. And I finished it today.
Wow. Okay.
So that book was fantastic. It was not as, people would think, oh, it's so long, blah, blah, blah. So the next book that I actually was starting was finally Issa Rae's The Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl, which I did watch on YouTube way, in my college days. And now I finally get to listen to the book. So those are the books, that I'm trying to get rid of the audiobooks. And then physically I have, the books I have above my head right now that I'm going to start reading. So it's a journey.
Nice.
Thank you.
What or who was something that made a big impression on you in the last year?
Ooh, oh my gosh. Can I say multiple people or?
Sure. I mean, but there has to be something or, a person or persons that just sticks out for last year.
Wow. In 2020.
Yeah, exactly. That's why.
Yeah, that's a lot. Goodness gracious. It's hard to say one person. I'm gonna go with my girlfriend.
You can go with two or three just to keep it a little concise, small.
Okay. Well, I'm going to shout out my girlfriend, Ting. Her name is Ting, and she has been the cheerleader in my corner, the person that believes in me, and I in her. And she was the person that was like, keeping me accountable at home as well. Because, back in the time where she wasn't working either because, all this craziness, this chaos was happening. She was like, look, just, do it and tell me what I need to do. And, she was the one that built this in terms of like my backgrounds and, certain things that I needed to be accountable for, posting things on my social media pages, making sure that I'm on time for stuff, making sure that I'm posting certain things. She was definitely someone that kept me on my path and making sure that I was, because I love routine. I'm a routine person. I need to have my routine. I need to have my scheduling. And going through quarantine, there wasn't a schedule.
Right.
So
you're not wrong.
I was just like out there. So having her rein me in when I was starting to lose my mind, like, what do I do? Oh my God, I can't do this. She was like, what? Just look, this is what you should do. Just do this and then do this. And then you got this. And I was like, oh, when you say it, it's simple. When I do it, I'm overthinking. Like it's, so I have her, my mis primos, my gang, my squad. I have, oh my gosh, I'm going to name them. Hardcore because they deserve all the love and appreciation. So my cousins, Carlo, my other cousin, Antonio, and our friends, Takia Marie and Shanae Williams, they definitely got me all the way together in terms of, being authentically myself. And even I'm saying Takia and I'm saying Antonio because, and Shanae, obviously, but Antonio had his own podcast and has his own podcast. And he's the one that got me into the podcasting bug as well, because he invited me on his show and he believed in me to want to have a podcast. And I will always give him credit for this. And then there was, again, before the Kofefe, Takia had a barbecue at her house and we all drove up there. And I'm not going to say where she lived, but we had the barbecue. And then the next morning, spent the night and we had a round table in her kitchen talking about what if I had a podcast. And she was like, I would love to listen to you. Let me know, I'm here for you, giving me that encouragement. And Shanae Williams, and they're wonderful, talented Black women. Shanae Williams and Takia Marie, like wonderful, talented artists. And I've posted them on my Instagram all the time, but definitely look them up. And they were definitely the pillars of encouragement and love and patience and kindness to believe in me, to actually care about what I'm doing and to be like, no, Joy, you got this. And just anyone in my Twitch community, like anyone that's ever watched me and is in my Discord, like anybody, and of course my friend Isaac that got me into it in the first place. But in the last year, it would just be all of them, really, because they're the ones that were like, they're cheering me on, and it's not out of jealousy. It's not out of
blocks, right?
spite.
They were the building blocks to where you're at now.
Yes. And we're all Black. Most of us are, again, like I said, Afro Latinx. So it was having that, be our, building block of like, all right, look, we're all in love with geeky things. We like video games. We love video games. We love anime. We love comic books. Like, and of course they have the talent to draw and I can't, but I'm like, what can we do to put ourselves out there? So, cause I know thanks to them, and they're older than me, not by a lot, but they're older than me. And I would look to them and I'm like, you are literally the dream, because there was so much animosity about, well, Black women, you need to grow up. Like after 20, like you need to stop playing video games. You need to go find a husband and you need to go have babies, and you don't have time to play video games. You got to be a wife. And I'm like, what? Where's the contract for that? I didn't sign no contract out of my mom's womb that I had to be someone's wife. Like, I have to stop loving video games at age 16? Like, why? Sure. And we would have these conversations with each other, like, wow, like, and I would tell them, you're literally what I thought I could never be. Like, you're grown, fine women, loving what you do, living in your truth. And I just never thought that could happen. And they would just be like, no, Joy, you totally got this. And of course, like, we're just doing what we love. And I'm like, oh, so yeah, 2020 was definitely a bout of craziness. But yeah, it was them, all of them, that got me through. Girlfriend and my cousins, and they're basically my cousins too, Takia and Shanae. But yeah, they're the ones that really got me through this.
That is outstanding. What is one website you recommend to people often?
Ooh. I would say Linktree, because the thing about being a content creator, you have to be on all these platforms. And of course, you just don't have one thing. You don't just have a Facebook. You got Instagram, you got Twitter, you got Twitch, you got TikTok now, which I haven't even tackled that crazy app. You have your YouTube, you got your this and you got your that. And I'm like, Linktree was something that was recommended to me while I was at my audio engineering job, because you need a space. If you couldn't afford a website, you need a space to have all your links.
True.
And I know that there are other websites that are doing this now, but I still have a Linktree, so I'm just going to push Linktree.
Gotcha.
But that was the one thing that I always thought about, like, well, I have all these social media links and I have to, if you want to see me on Instagram, here's that. If you want to see me on, like, I have the same name for everything. If you have the space, just put my name in. But nowadays I could just be like, hey, look at the link in my bio, and you can just list those links on one area. So I just say, if you don't have a Linktree, definitely have that.
What's a game that you're playing that you haven't streamed yet to the general public?
Oh man, because you got me at a good time, because usually I don't be doing nothing. Usually the only games I play is just on stream. But recently I just beat Dishonored 2.
Oh,
and
wow.
Which, I've had sitting forever on my PlayStation 4. And I was like, I got to beat this game. I got to beat this game. Come on, Joy. Like, you got to beat this game. So, and because in the beginning of quarantine, I wanted to play video games that were female led. So I already played Dishonored before, like in a while back. I know that's not female led, but I started that game. But Dishonored 2 is female led. So I was like, okay, I'm going to play Dishonored 2. And then Dishonored Death of the Outsider has a main black woman on the cover. I'm like, that's the main character. Her name is Megan Foster, but then her other name is Billy. And I'm not going to go more into that. But I just started that game today.
Nice.
Where I was like, I want to play more video games that are female led. And then after that game, I'm playing Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
All right.
Because that's another game I've been sitting on for umpteenth years and then just never played it. So, I wanted to have those games, because I have so many games I'm hoarding and I'm sitting on. The backlog is ridiculous. And I was like, you know what? I got to play more games offline than how I do online. So, yep, those are my games. So Dishonored 2 is what I beat. And I just started Death of the Outsider, Dishonored today.
Nice. What's an item you purchased recently that's less than $100 that's made your life easier or just more enjoyable?
Wow. Oh my gosh. What's something that I've purchased recently that's made my life easier?
Or more enjoyable? And it's got to be less than $100. It could be a game. It could be a book. It could be food, because I know you like yourself some good food.
Oh, you know my tourist loving self. I love me some food.
Mm-hmm.
What I recently bought that was less than $100. I'm so funny. So Old Navy. Shout out to Old Navy, which I never thought I'd say that ever in life.
Agreed.
But Old Navy has some banging properties on their website. And I recently just received PlayStation pajamas.
Oh,
like,
man.
Yes. Oh, if y'all go on Old Navy, I'm sure that maybe it might be sold out by now, but I bought my girlfriend and I PlayStation. It's really, I made them into pajamas, but in the section that you're going to find, it's in the male section, but because we're small ladies, like, we can fit like anything. We could fit kids' clothes, and I can fit we can fit small men's clothes. So the PlayStation pajamas, which is something I've always wanted my entire life. I've always wanted PlayStation apparel. Old Navy has PlayStation pajama pants, and then they have PlayStation long sleeve shirts. So I bought us both 2 different orders, the same outfit so that we can wear them to bed together. So that thing, I was so excited because my purchase came today, and I also bought her and this was less than $100. I bought her the Super Mario 3 hoodie from Old Navy as well.
I saw that. I actually saw that in an ad, and I was like, really?
Yes. And I was shocked because I was like, oh my God, like when did Old Navy get like
Seriously.
this popping? It's crazy. So I bought us the pajamas. I'm saying in quotations, but the pajamas, and I bought her a hoodie, and I bought her Nintendo socks. So it's like one of the socks is Donkey Kong, and the other socks was Mario, like old school 89 Mario. So
Nice.
those things made her happy, and it made me happy. So yeah, that was less than $100.
Awesome. We talked about tech. Of course, we got to talk about toys. What are some toys or collectibles you're obsessing about right now?
Oh my God. Look, I got this for Christmas from my girlfriend, from my baby. She bought me this Mega Constructs, which I never heard of because I love Legos. Like I would always build Legos, and I have no problem doing them by myself. But for Christmas, she got me the Mega Constructs of the Pokemon Eevee.
Oh,
And
I've seen that. Yeah.
so I will show you. I mean, you guys can't see it because it's a podcast, but this thing is amazing.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes, though. Don't worry about it.
We were building it last week, and Eevee is my favorite Pokemon. And because Eevee, I never want to evolve Eevee ever, because like Eevee definitely, she reminds me of me. He, she, whatever gender you're going to have your Eevee.
Yep.
But Eevee reminds me of me. You can be whatever you want. I can have fire. I can be chill with grass. I can be chilled with, ice. Like, she has so many evolutions, but I find that her most perfect form is who she is.
Yep. Nice and plain. Little Chihuahua looking Pokemon. That's what I always say.
She's adorable, and it reminds me of me. I'm small, like I'm a little, like I can talk forever, clearly. And I just loved how Eevee was, and also it was the first. I can't say that, but my grandfather, may his soul rest in peace, he bought me an Eevee plushie. That was like the first Pokemon thing he ever purchased for me.
Right.
And that was before I even knew if Eevee was my favorite, but he bought it for me, and I still have it sitting up here. And I always looked at it like, oh, my grandfather took the time to buy me something back when I was in 4th grade. Like, that's so cool. And she just ended up being my favorite Pokemon of all time. So she bought me this Mega Constructs, and we're going to work on it on the weekend. We have to work on the legs and the tail. But we finished the head portion and the body portion of Eevee. And it's just so exciting to look at. Oh, my gosh. It's so cool.
Now, of course, we talked about what you're obsessing about now. What was your favorite toy when you were a kid?
These are the best questions in my entire life. My favorite toy was, oh my God, can I say 2?
Sure.
Okay, so my first favorite toy was the Tiger Talk Boy.
Oh man, I remember that.
From Home Alone.
Yep.
But the thing was, my brother was obsessed with Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. And that was my first, like, oh, this is what New York is like? That's scary. I need to have a talk boy to make sure that I can manipulate bad men from trying to kidnap me. So my mom and dad bought me a talk boy for Christmas, and I would record every anime ending that I could find on TV, and I would record it on the cassette tape, and I would listen to it. So the talk boy was like my favorite thing of all, because I wasn't using it to spy on people, like, ew, gross.
Right.
I just wanted to record Inuyasha and like G Gundam, the ending songs, because they were so epic. And that ties into my second favorite toy of all time was the Shining Gundam from G Gundam. I would go home because I went to a charter school. Shout out to my charter school, Red Bank Charter School. And I would get off from school at like 4:00. So by the time I got home and got to watch cartoons on Cartoon Network, it was usually, Toonami, which y'all should know about Toonami.
Yep.
And they would have Gundam Wing, depending on what kind of block it was. But I loved G Gundam, where it was like Shining Gundam, and they had all these people and from all these countries, and it was like, oh, you have the Gundam from China, the Gundam from Mexico, the Gundam from America, and the Gundam from Japan, obviously. And I was so obsessed with Domon Kashu being like, shining finger, like this hand is burning red and burning. Like it was all this crazy screaming. And I was like, I need to have this toy. And I found it at a toy store that's no longer existing. I'm so sad. Hobby Masters and Toy Masters in Red Bank, New Jersey. My grandfather, again, like really was spoiling me in terms of like, she likes this stuff, so I'll buy it. We found the Gundam, G Gundam Wing toys in this toy store, and he bought it for me. And I was like obsessed with playing with the Gundams in my room. And of course, Dragon Ball Z is there, but like Gundams, like you can transform the Gundam and it'd be so cool. So, with my Talk Boy and with my Shining Gundam, I was just having the best time alone in my room. So yeah, those are my toys.
Nice.
Thank you.
There's definitely some great nostalgia stuff in there. I was a big Toonami person. Dragon Ball Z is one of my favorites. I have a lot of Dragon Ball Z stuff in my office. So
yes. Oh my God. And I would love to, when I have a house, like I would love to have those things, in the house, in the rooms, and display those things. But as of right now, I can't do that right now.
There you go. Last one to wrap up the hot seat. If I called you a year from today and I said, Joy, where's Joy Infinity at right now? What would you want to answer?
I would love to say that I am partnering with PlayStation and on vacation.
Nice.
Like I would love to say, first of all, I'm on vacation, but second of all, PlayStation called me and they saw my material and they're flying out my girlfriend and I to partner with them on a particular game project. Or more specifically, I want to be in a video game. Like have my black self in a video game. I would love that. So I would hope by this time next year, Sony, PlayStation calls me and they're like, hey, Joy, we've seen what you've done. We want to bring you out to the main campus and throw some things your way. And I'd be like, oh my God, yes.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Then that's the goal for a year from now when I follow up. And
I'm going to tag them.
Last thing to wrap things up, we like to do reach one, teach one, just to give people some additional value. Usually tailor the question just based on the guest. And I tailored it for a guest we had recently. And I feel that the question fits you to a T. So you get invited to speak in front of a bunch of kids about getting into Twitch and streaming. What's one piece of actionable advice you'd give them to start them out?
Use the technology you have right now. You have the world in the palm of your little fingers. You don't even know. Like I had a cell phone at 16 that flipped.
Yep.
And I had to record Gorilla's Feel Good Incorporated on my flip phone. You mean to tell me you guys have unlimited data plans?
Yep.
And you are not Googling and YouTubing streamers? Like, no. Because at this point, we're literally giving away the information on our 2-3 hour streams on how to do this.
True.
And we list it. If you go on my Twitch page right now, and that was something that I was so grateful for, when you go on other people's Twitch pages, we will literally give you the list of the equipment we're working with.
Yep.
We'll give you the Amazon wish list of what we're working with.
Yep.
So, and I've had people come to me last year and they did ask me, hey, my son wants to do streaming. My daughter wants to do streaming. Like, what do you suggest? What do you do? And I'm usually like, well, what are they playing?
Yep.
Do they like what they're playing? Do you have a computer? You don't have to, but I tell them, it helps, if you're trying to do a bunch of things, but if you just want something to get started or just be streamlined, like PlayStation 4, they have a camera. Xbox, they have cameras like where you can do that if you want your child.
Right.
That's the thing, because that's. But I would say work with. If you don't have a console, have a console, and of course, if your child wants to be heard, definitely invest in a good microphone, because of course people are going to sit here and they'll watch the gameplay, but if your audio is crappy, no one's going to sit there and listen to you. So I would say, and a lot of kids, they have all these tablets and stuff, their iPads, their Kindles, and all this other stuff. You can start there. Like there have been plenty of kids that play, Fortnite and all this and Apex and stuff from their parents' phones. Like it's easier to get into it now than ever. But again, just you can get into it, but also be prepared. You just can't be out here being like, everyone's gonna love me. No, honey boo boo, you gotta have some self, like sense of self. And I say that because these kids, as they're growing up, they're growing up into a lot of adult situations. So I've seen a lot of young kids be really mature for their age already.
Yep.
So I'm kind of like, wow, I can't even imagine even thinking about doing a YouTube channel at the age of 5.
It's true.
So, I just say definitely use the technology that you have. You don't have to, like you said earlier, you don't have to have the most expensive stuff to get started, but the amount of stuff that's on my iPhone SE, because I don't have no iPhone 12, iPhone 13, whatever. The stuff on my iPhone SE is enough to be able to broadcast something on a channel, get it through your YouTube page. And a lot of the stuff is free. Like it's free to sign up. So it's definitely easier today in 2021 than it was in 2008.
No, you're not wrong.
So yeah, just, and just be yourself. Like just for real. Because people can see it. You can see when someone's being inauthentic. You can tell. So if you're just going to be yourself, it's easy to get started, but make sure that you keep a sense of self. Because if you're going to try to be a fake person, it's going to come at you. It's going to come bite you in the butt, and you're going to be sad, and it's going to be messed up. And it's not just you. And that was my main thing. And I'll wrap that up. Like my main thing of being on the internet when I started in 2013, I knew I obviously am a human being. I'm a person. I might say wrong things, but it's not just me. It's everyone that knows who I am. It's my parents. It's my siblings. It's my cousins. It's my family. It's anyone that I date. Like, and that's another reason why I never did a YouTube channel with like anyone I dated before. Cause I was like, nah, that's a whole separate crazy thing.
Yep.
But I'm representing myself, but I'm also representing the people that are around me, my circle of friends, my circle of relatives. And if you don't like me now, if people aren't around me right now that I can trust and care for, like, then there's really no point of doing this. And none of this I'm doing alone. So got to have a sense of self and be grateful for where you are and who you are. And just do it.
I think that's a great way to wrap things up. Joy,
Yeah.
I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to share the toys and tech of your trade.
Thank you so much for having me, Rich. And you are truly a blessing. And you have pushed me to do the most amazing things with my podcast. And when you have popped up on my streams, I'm always grateful to see your name up there. And I thank God for you. Thank you for even, catching up with me. Thank you.
What a great conversation with Joy. She just lights up the room with her energy, her positivity, and her content. Make sure to check out Joy's streams. I'm going to put her streaming schedule and all of the items we discussed on this episode in the show notes. Of course, some of those items may contain affiliate links, which, of course, if you click and utilize them to purchase that item, we receive a small commission that goes towards helping build the shows, the network, and everything RageWorks related. So definitely use those links and support the show. And of course, get the gear that Joy uses to bring her streams to you. All of Joy's social links will also be in the show notes for this episode, so you'll be able to follow her on whatever social media platform of choice you choose. And if you really dig what she does on Twitch, hit her with a sub. I'm sure she would really, really appreciate it and would love to hear from you in the chat. And by all means, let her know that Rageworks and Rich sent you from Toys and Tech of the Trade. I'm sure she's definitely going to love that. To close things out, a couple of other things I did want to add. We are working on a weekly newsletter for Toys and Tech of the Trade. We're going to talk about the guests of the week, share some tech items, and a couple of other things. We're going to start linking subscription link in the show notes starting with the next episode. So if you enjoy what we do on Toys and Tech of the Trade and want to stay up to date, make sure to check out that link when it goes live. And we also have a newsletter for the Rageworks brand, which covers everything Rageworks, from the articles we post to the stuff going on the network, plus so much more. So if you want to stay up to date and just want one weekly email in your inbox, you can subscribe to that, and we'll put links to that as well in the show notes for this episode. Last but not least, as always, if you enjoy what we do and you're checking out the show on iTunes or any of the major platforms that have a review system, please take a moment and review the show. We would really, really appreciate it. It looks great for social proof, and it just shows that we are doing our job and engaging and giving you folks the information, the tools, and the tech that you want to learn about. So if you got a second or two, please take a moment and review the podcast. I would really, really appreciate it. With regards to social, I did want to mention, as always, you can find Rageworks on the social media platform of choice. Usually I am pretty much active on all of them, and we're going to work on bringing back or resurrecting our Discord. So if you're into using Discord, we're probably going to have something for you folks as well. But you can find us anywhere, and most of the time it's me replying, unless for some reason someone is running the account for me, just because, life gets in the way, and some of the staff actually help me out with that. But for the most part, I'd like to say 90% of the time it is me. So feel free to reach out on any social media platform of choice, say hello, ask a question. I'm always trying to give you folks value wherever I can and pay it forward wherever I can, because been in this game a long time, learned a lot, and if I can pass that information on and make somebody's podcast or content better, I will gladly do it. All right, folks, that's going to wrap things up. Thank you guys for taking the time to beam us into your ears and enjoy this week's episode of Toys and Tech of the Trade. I'll see you folks in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening. Peace.
Toys and Tech of the Trade is part of the Rageworks Podcast Network, your source for rants about gaming, entertainment, and the works. Visit us at rageworksnetwork.com.